So it's good to see everybody today.
Recording in progress.
It never gets old. So we're going to start, we're going to have a very short business meeting, and then we are going to get on to our celebration today. The very first thing is calling the meeting to order. It's at 3:06, it appears. My name is Chris Marker. I'm the president of Greater Miami Valley EMS Council. We're going to go around the room and do introductions real quickly. So I'm going to start, we'll do the front row first and work towards the back. I'm going to start over here to my right. Sandy, would you please start?
All about the Riverside Fire. Yeah, and the wheelchair.
Mitch Robbins, Keller Park. Chad Hollinger, City Fire Department, I'm the fire chief there. I'm also the president-elect and code of regulations chair. Brian Coombs, the past president. Alan Long, past president of the council. Washington Township Fire Department retired, and Miami Valley Hospital EMS coordinator retired. Squad from Washington Township. Field District County Transport. Chris Breeze, EMS coordinator at Miami Valley North and education coordinator. Bill Rose, Damon Lawrence.
Their hospital, Greater Area Hospital Association.
Dave Gerstner, immediate past president of council, Dave Fire Department. Russell Two Heights, City Water District. County on Senior Director, Health Outreach to. J.R. Pickett, monster, it's probably influence, I have no responsibilities here whatsoever. Jim Brown, Rice University. Mark Johnston, Rice Hospital, Liberty, coordinator. Jeff Burns, City Fire. Nick Osprey, State Fire. Nick Jones, State Fire.
And Paula. I'm sorry, Joanna, my apologies. All right, thank you. President, the secretary's report was sent out via email. Does anybody have any changes or edits to that? Okay, hearing none, that'll stand. President's report. Been a lot of time and effort that's been involved in putting all this together today, so we're really glad that we have the attendance that we do and appreciate you coming out. We really shortened today's agenda up to be able to accommodate the what we have planned for the ceremony. So that's pretty much it. It's been pretty quiet other than that so far. Membership request, we have a change of voting reps for Trotwood. Voting rep is recommended to be Chad McInturf, and updated for UDMS and alternate voting rep is Haley Rodack. I do have a motion to accept those changes. Do I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Moving on, drug bag exchange program report. Brendan was unable to make it today. He said there should be a drug bag inventory tags now that have the 2022 inventory on them. To go along with the update that took the EpiPens off of it, and then WMD drugs are now removed off the inventory, so the tags are correct. That completes his report. Standing orders, John Russell.
All right, I'll keep it short and sweet. I think, Jeff, are we correct? This is the final edition? We hope. No, we did upload about a week ago the final edited version for the 2022 protocol cycle. The biggest issue that Jeff and I see going forward is to make sure that people have that updated version. So on the website, you'll see it says to please download the new version, get rid of the old version. We got to spread the word. Everybody's got to understand that the new version, and I don't know if you've seen the 50th anniversary logo. If it's got the logo on it, that's the most current version. That's probably the best way to say it. If you have an older version, please, there have been numerous, Jeff is, God bless, how many, 8 or 10 revisions deep. So moving forward, our plan always has been to have one version for an entire protocol cycle. I did speak with Jeff and also with Dr. Marriott, who's my co-chair. If we find a huge error, an error that will affect patient care, we will make that error correct, and we'll send out a message to the listserv. Otherwise, we know that you're still going to find some minor grammatical errors. You're going to find some minor things here and there. Those things will be fixed for the next protocol cycle. I know Chris is going to give some information here. Just realize that this protocol will take effect June 1st. The last thing, and I'll get out of the way, to the website today was uploaded the edited quick sheet for 2022. That went through about 12 to 15 people's eyes with revisions, so there are probably still some errors. So if you find them, let me know. We can make a change to that pretty quickly. So any questions on standing orders protocol? Yes, there's your logo. So if it says that and you see that, the biggest problem we have, guys, is if they've gone out there on their mobiles or something like that, they need to download the new version and replace it with that. So questions? That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Chris Freeze and Mike Guadagno, education report and testing committee report.
I'll do it quicker than John. Testing closes on June 1st, so everyone needs to have their testing done by June 1st. Anything after that's going to require documentation for post-cycle testing. Testing numbers as of right now, out of 141 organizations, we have 4,261 profiles on the database. We've tested 3,130 tests have been taken. Out of that, we've had 2,802 first test passes, 333 second test passes. And we're averaging right around a 92% pass rate. So, anybody have any questions for Education Committee? Yeah, second and third test, post-cycle tests, all the documentation that's required is in the implementation guide. Remember, on June 1st, you need to submit a document saying that your department has, or organization has completed all testing. So, thanks.
All right, I have one additional report that was not on the agenda. PR committee, I'm going to ask Paula Balcom to come forward and give a report on what we've been doing recently.
Good afternoon. As you know, the PR committee worked very hard and very diligently to bring us to today. Some of the things that we did and accomplished over the past several months, as you see here, the logo, we updated that to reflect the 50th anniversary, to spread that across all the members and the providers to recognize and see that. That was also a catalyst behind our challenge coins, which we have and will be presenting today in recognition of those who have provided outstanding service, whether it is just being a member and volunteer of committees with EMS Council, to those who were nominated for awards, along with others who made today happen. We also were able to provide billboards. I'm not sure if anyone in here saw the 2 locations of the billboards. The goal was for the public to recognize and understand kind of EMS just doesn't happen. There's a lot that goes into it. And as you'll hear some of the speakers today, it really is a testament to the years of work that has occurred to get to today. We also had a few segments, Channel 2 and Channel 7, both interviewed Chris and David to, again, let the public know what all goes into what we do on a daily basis. There were multiple emails that went out across the listserv. So I'm sure everybody's tired of those emails, but we'll continue some of that, and I'll get to that. We also spent a lot of time recognizing how to improve the efforts to get people to nominate others for the good work that they do, for the Tom Long Award and the Norma Dittrich Award. Over the years, there's been very little engagement with that, and really trying to find a push with the future and how to get people to easily nominate and to understand it. That can be anyone. It could be a coworker. It could be a supervisor. It doesn't have to be a chief officer or anyone in particular. We need to be recognizing our coworkers. We made it much easier to do that through a Survey Monkey. And then again, we were able to make several connections to bring people here, work with connecting with past presidents, work with trying to get connections to record this live so others who could not partake in this very special event to be here and witness it, and then also to have the recordings for later. We have Roger, who volunteered his time to come in and record it and photograph and document this event today. I want to thank everyone that came together to make this happen.
Thank you, Paula. That brings our meeting to a close, unless anybody has any other outstanding business. All right, hearing none, I have a motion to close the meeting. Second? All in favor? Okay. Now to the fun stuff. I want to welcome you and thank you all for coming today. We appreciate you taking time out of the day to join us and be part of the 50th anniversary celebration. This historic organization began its journey May 25th, 1972, as the Emergency Medical Services Council. Later in 1974, the name changed to the Western Ohio Emergency Medical Services Council. The current name, the Greater Miami Valley EMS Council, came about as other counties sought to join this great organization. As a cohesive unit, many changes were implemented that allowed for the following accomplishments and many more. Some of those are created the Linen Exchange Program, assisted in the development of the paramedic program in Dayton, acquired funding for the early BLS and ALS radio system, initiated inter-hospital transfer programs, standardized countywide run reports, and initiated the big one, the drug bag exchange program. They continually monitored and updated regional standing orders, protocol testing, and now the online protocol testing that we have today, as well as the QA/QI program. I could easily take several minutes going through the list, but our time is valuable today. So let me just say the list is very long. Most of our providers take for granted what we have, as they are unaware of it being anything other than the well-oiled machine that we have today. Truthfully, most have probably never given this any thought. The services have always been available, and ultimately, that might be our biggest accomplishment today. I'm going to ask Paula to come forward to present the award. Tom Long, would you please come forward? And then I'm also going to ask Joanna, Dr. Cunningham, Dr. Marriott, President-elect Hollinger to please come forward.
Today we begin with the Tom Long Lifetime Achievement EMS nomination. The Lifetime Achievement Award is designed to recognize outstanding individuals who have made a lifelong contribution to the high quality of emergency medical services within the Greater Miami Valley. The first recipient was Tom Long, who served as the EMS coordinator for more than 30 years at Miami Valley Hospital in Dayton, Ohio. Today I have Tom here. He is going to read the nomination. And I would like to ask David Gershner to come forward.
That's my father. David works long hours, is always available to answer questions on nights and weekends, and really takes any time off. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to witness the city of Dayton award David his 48 years of service. The assistant city manager presented the service award, remarked that he was known as the halls of Mr. EMS. Over David's career with the city of Dayton, he served a frontline provider, a supervisor, a teacher, and a mentor. His peers and physicians have utmost respect for him. In his career, he has been directly involved in saving many lives. In his career, he has been directly involved. Today, he continues to save lives by helping others prepare and save even more. Instead of Mr. EMS, I prefer Mr. Disaster. When it comes to planning for all things in potentially disaster circumstances, Ebola, active shooters, COVID-19, tornadoes, water system failures, large-scale power outages due to ice storms, opiate crisis, managing regional hospital notification systems, etc. There's no one else I would rather have it to help. David serves as the Regional Metropolitan Medical Response Coordinator. He's known by and has excellent working relationships with over 250 local, state, and federal agencies, including hospitals, dispatch centers, colleges, Wright State University, Boone Shaw School of Medicine, loses sleep at night, ensuring that our region is prepared to face whatever disaster may come its way. He has designed and executed multiple table-type scenarios for local emergency responders, hospitals, health departments, and other governmental agencies. David also served the Greater Miami Valley EMS Council as president and continues today to be actively assisting all facets of the council. David is a wealth of knowledge, knows or resources nearly every facet of public service, and knows how to bring them together. He is a guy you want to prepare you for the worst day in this career. And he's a guy you want to help others be ready to serve your citizens, your family, and you in your worst day. David is a passionate, devoted servant to EMS and does so with grace and humility. There are some of the reasons I feel senior paramedic David Gerson should receive the Tom Long Award.
Like 600 text messages from this guy in the last 2 months, including starting as early as 5:30 in the morning. You couldn't have given me a hint. I thank you very much. And I just have to say that getting the Tom Long Award from Tom Long, who taught me very early much of what I know, is an incredible honor. And thank you. Thanks for being here.
Everyone say also is one of the challenge coins. Tom, I would like to present you with the first challenge coin. Awesome. Thank you for being here. The next award we'll present today is the Norma Dittrich Extra Measure of Service Award. For that, I would like to call up John Russell and Dale Dittrich to represent Norma Dittrich. The Norma Dittrich EMS nomination. The Extra Measure of Service Award is designed to recognize outstanding individuals and organizations within the Greater Miami Valley Emergency Medical Services Council. Nominations may be made anytime throughout the year. This is based upon major contributions to EMS, contribution to the community, and self-improvement in EMS. The nomination for this award today for John Russell as the Administrative Battalion Chief for Huber Heights Fire Department. John oversees arson investigations, fire prevention, plans review, fire inspection, public education, and fire division training. In addition to that busy schedule, John has been active in council for many years. He's been involved with council's standing orders and continuing education committees for as long as I can remember, and has served in a leadership role in both. When the former standing orders chair had to leave the position suddenly, John agreed to take over one of council's most crucial roles. He picked up the baton without missing a beat and has led us with changes in both format and content. He has supported, quote, just in time issues, just as changes in orders for COVID response, but most of all, provides leadership that keeps council's protocols among the best in the nation.
Yeah, just, I'll echo what Dave said. Thanks. It's, it's an honor.
That's what he wants to do. All right. Thank you. What I would also like to do is recognize, this year there was, like I said before, an attempt to get more people to nominate outstanding achievements within our EMS communities. I would be amiss without mentioning the names of the others that were nominated, and everyone absolutely makes outstanding contributions. If you're here and I call your name, if you would please stand so you can receive recognition and a round of applause for your nomination. Laura Clark, Brendan Deere, Andy Hart, Kendra Harris, Bob Kidd, Dominika Kozlowski, Ken Lemon, Jeff Patton, Joseph Pizzino, Terry Prass, Nathan Pulliam, and Dr. Paul Zeit. Thank you all, and you should be proud of your constant contributions and recognition. That concludes the awards portion. Those that were nominated all will receive a challenge coin, a letter recognizing your nomination, and we will also be sending out letters and coins to those who made the nominations this year. Thank you, and I hope to have more nominations next year. Thank you.
While I was going through and collecting information and trying to send out emails to contact past presidents of council, there was a name that came up that I was not familiar with, and it was not on the list of prior presidents. The name was Dr. Michael Urban. Apparently, Mr. Urban had a large role to play with the development of what would become today's Greater Miami Valley EMS Council and the infancy of even the Montgomery County EMS Commission. So at this time, I'd like to announce that I will be making Dr. Michael Urban an honorary past president of the Greater Miami Valley EMS Council. We'll be sending him a certificate. He was not able to attend today, but want to make that acknowledgement of the significant contribution and role that he played in the early goings of council. With that, we'll start with our speakers. So I'm going to ask Dr. Marriott to come forward and introduce the first guest speaker, Dr. Pickett.
I didn't like him. He showed up in Dayton in the early 2000s as a resident, cocky as could be. It hasn't changed. And I thought, nah, he just can't be that good. And he got lucky a couple times. And then he kept getting lucky. Then I had to step back and realize, yeah, maybe there's more to it than luck. Maybe he is that good. So then he says to me that, hey, I want to get involved in EMS. And he's approaching me over and over again. You know, he was like a cat that goes after the person that likes him the least. That's kind of what was going on here. So I thought to myself, yeah, right, we'll see how this goes. Because I've had more than one resident before him tell me the same thing. So then the spring comes around and him and two of his intern colleagues get this idea that they're going to run a lab out at Wright State for EMS to teach them on cadavers and anatomy and procedures, i.e. CAP. And the CAP lab was born during his internship year. Probably one of the most well-attended and probably most effective training programs that this region's ever seen. All right, I guess I have to like him now. So then he graduates from residency, he sticks around, and we spent a lot of time together. Spent a lot of time in Chief Protzman's shop. Spent a lot of time doing a lot of things. Fellow martial artist. And I knew we were never going to keep him long term. We couldn't challenge him after a certain amount of time. We couldn't bring together with our multiple jurisdictions, we just couldn't bring together a program that was going to keep his attention long term. So that's how it went. But we lost him to Austin, and it was a loss for us. But he's remained a friend. He's remained a frequent visitor. He has roots in the community, and the RPAB meetings have not been the same since. Everyone needs a lightning rod, right? And we had gas and fire in the same meeting between him and another member. So it made things interesting. It's never been the same, as I said, since. So I'll wrap up by saying, I think it's safe to say that EMS was indelibly changed under his influence and will not be the same again. You can make your judgment as to whether that's good or bad. And I think most of us will say that's good. And so I didn't like him then, but I love him like a brother now.
Never had an introduction like that. That was just terrific. I know you all just brought me here because I provide a lot of entertainment at the RPAB meetings. I like to start fights. So it's a great honor to be here. I didn't realize that the history of this organization went back as far as it does, and it really is fantastic because I would go to other places and they would say, "How do you knit that whole area together?" With a common operating picture and protocols, drug bag, and all of these things. How do you get all of these organizations to work so well together? Works in a job interview, right? And it comes from a huge spirit of collaboration between all of these different organizations, all of these people that see this as a system rather than the service or an organization. See that broader application across the area, because you really got one or two ambulances, you can't really change the world. You can affect a few people. But if you find everybody together in that system, you can affect a lot more. And that's what this system has done over the last 50 years. Now, you know what I do to our PAP meetings? You fools take it. I want to say we're doing it all wrong. Because EMS continues to see itself as getting somebody to the hospital and doing what we need to do to get them to the hospital, and then the hospital does the hospital stuff, right? And I had this conversation with a county executive, and this is why my boss keeps telling me I have to be more politics. Because he would say, well, I mean, this stuff with the community paramedicine that you're doing and the harm reduction programs, and ER diversion, all of these things, like that's all good. But I mean, at the end of the day, you got to take the patient to the hospital so the doctor can do the doctor things. I looked him straight in the eye and I said, "You're the problem." Because he cannot think past the ambulance as 4 wheels and a box to take someone to the hospital. So I like to think beyond that. So now I'm going to think creatively here. Let's say that somebody, no,
I'm sorry, but no. Yeah, but it depends on what you say next. Back up to the podium so that we get the sound. This is also going out on Zoom and the mic.
Oh, okay, so
I apologize.
I can use 2 microphones. We can do that. All right. People just want to, they just want to keep me down, keep me pinned in one place. Yeah, I will not be suppressed. So fair enough. All right, I'm going to be married to this podium here. So let's say that something happens to me. I trip over this extension cord that's sitting here and I break my ankle. And I just snapped my fibula, maybe a little tibia fracture, not a big one, not horribly displaced, not vascularly compromised or anything like that. What is the ground transport time from where we are right here to a very capable hospital? How long would it take to drive from here to there? 7 minutes. Very specific. Thank you very much. I like it. Okay, 7 minutes, right? To go to a level 1 trauma center that is compassionate and capable and all this kind of stuff. All right, fantastic. And it's really easy for you to say to me, "Hey man, I'm not going to crack the fentanyl. We're going to be at the hospital in 7 minutes from now." I'm like, okay, great. All right, this really hurts. I could do something. It's okay. You're going to be there in 7 minutes. I get like all the stuff, right? They'll give you the Dilaudid. They'll be really nice to you. Okay, fine. 7 minutes. We get there, and that's assuming that there's no traffic. There's no construction. There's no nothing. There's not 15 ambulances all stacked up under the ambulance overhang. And you unload me from the ambulance and you take me inside and we wheel inside and you meet the perch like, "Hey, what you got?" "Oh, we got a broken ankle." "Oh, okay, cool. Why don't you go to room 34? So we head towards room 34 and the tech sees that the ambulance has arrived and heads on in there like, "Hey guys, what you got?" "We got a broken ankle." "All right, cool. Let's get you in a gown. Let's get you all squared away here." Fantastic. And now the nurse, if the nurse is not in another patient's room, if they're not starting an IV, if they're not in a resuscitation, if they're not woefully understaffed and crushed with patients in a pandemic and all this kind of stuff, they happen to be sitting at their computer and they see bling, and they hear the vocera say, "Patient to room 34, EMS to room 34. And the nurse comes in there and says, "Hey guys, what you got?" You say, "Oh, I got a broken ankle." "Oh, yeah, you sure do. Okay, cool. Well, let me just put stuff in. It's just Social Security number. Cool. You got any medications, allergies, history, anything like that? Are you a smoker? Do you drink?" "Yes, I do. Way too much, but not enough today." Okay. And have you had any weight loss, weight gain, night sweats, cough, anything like that over the last few months? And do you feel safe at home? Do you feel safe in your relationships? Like I have a teenage daughter, so no. Are you more of a visual learner, an auditory learner? Do you have any special cultural or religious needs that will affect your care today? Like, no, just an acute Dilaudid deficiency at the moment because I have a broken ankle. And gets it all put in. And I could really use something like, "Yeah, your heart rate's up a bit." It's like, "Yes, because I'm in agony." "Oh, sepsis alert." So then the doctor, if she's not engaged in something else, if she's not caring for another patient in resuscitation, sees it pop up on Epic, red, okay, click a sign, walks in, "What you got?" "I got a broken ankle." Like, "Yes, you sure do." And all right, okay, we'll look at everything else fine, quick cursory exam. I'm gonna order you some pain medicine. We'll get that right away. And the doc goes back to the computer and puts in, "Okay, Dilaudid, 1 milligram IV, x-rays." Okay, good, send, done. And the nurse, if the nurse is not in another room, is not doing something else, happens to be sitting at the nursing station, says, "Oh, okay, I got some stuff." Goes into the supply room, gets the IV materials, goes into the Pyxis, signs into the Pyxis, puts in there for the medication, pulls out Vecuronium, says, "Nope, putting that one back," and gets it allotted, and then heads to what? Heads into the room, gives me some medication. Y'all gave me a microphone and are streaming it live. What do you want? Right? So, and does that. How long was it before I got that medication, before I got some relief? Yeah. easily an hour. And this is in a system that is working perfectly. In a system where everybody's available, there are no barriers, there's nothing stopping it. And that's in a system that's perfect. And we can all see all the other things that happen. All right, let's say we got another situation. Again, I'm here, 7 minutes by ground from a very capable level 1 trauma center. And Carol Cunningham has had enough of my crap. And she decides to get up, pulls the club out of her purse and strikes me firmly in the head. And I drop. And now I've got snoring respirations. I'm turning blue. I've got stuff in my airway, etc. And it's really easy to look at me and say, wow, that could be a difficult airway. And this person needs a trauma service. So let's just go. Like we'll just go. All right, we can bag a little bit. Like, okay, bagging me here can be pretty effective. Bagging me while we're moving, much less so. And do you think you can maintain the appropriate rate, tidal volume, pressures, all that stuff with a bag valve mask on me between here and the hospital? Can't. We've tried tools to help with that, and short of having a transport ventilator, you can't. And that's too bad because of her traumatic brain injury. You ventilate me too much, it's bad for me. You ventilate me too little, it's bad for me. But it's okay. We're 7 minutes away, and you know what? We're putting the pedal to the metal, and we're going to get there a lot faster. And we're going to roll in, and we're going to come in there, and there's going to be a whole trauma team that meets me there. And do you know how long it takes to secure an advanced airway in that setting? A critical care environment with well-practiced teams that do this all the time. ER, OR, ICU, PACU, places like that. Do you know how much time that takes according to research? 7 minutes. So when we say that injury happens at, you pick it, like, Stewart Street, Dixie, wherever, really close by. Oh, we're 3 minutes away from being in the hospital. I'm easily 10 minutes from having that airway. And so this is where this whole proximity to the hospital, it hurts us. It's about providing the right care at the right time, the first time. But it's not just about that critical care stuff, because that's what we train. But the fact is that most of the stuff that we do is not critical care. Most of the stuff that we do is stuff that we've never been trained on. You have somebody with abdominal pain, and I've got nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, I've got some belly pain. Okay. Well, let's take you to the hospital. Well, do I need to go to the hospital? I mean, do I have to? Well, you can't not go to the hospital. It could be life-threatening. Well, you're a medic. I mean, can't you tell if it's life-threatening or not? Well, no, I'm not trained to tell if it's life-threatening or not. I'm trained to take you to the hospital. I can tell you right now, you're not dying. I don't have to do the stuff, put the scalpel away, we're good. But we've not been preparing our medics for that eventuality. So there's a whole bunch of patients that we see in the pre-hospital setting where a ride to the hospital is not necessarily the right thing. You've got cellulitis, you've got a urinary tract infection, you've got a sprain, you've got something like that. We can handle that out in the field. But we've not trained our pre-hospital providers to do that level of evaluation. And that's okay, because some of that requires higher level of evaluation, requires a physician, a nurse practitioner, a PA, something like that. So why don't we send one of them out to the scene? Oh my gosh, it's expensive. Yeah, it's really expensive. You know how expensive it is? Well, let's look at the ALS ambulance. That advanced life support ambulance, critical care equipped, all of the stuff. You look at the training, the pay, the benefits, the amount of time that they're in service, out of service. You know how much that costs to send that ambulance to that call? About $713 is what we found. All right, well, let's change it up. Let's send a fire truck. Let's send a fire truck with 4 EMT firefighters on it. I mean, really, lieutenant, driver, and 2 fire specialists. You know how much that costs? $2,300. All right, well, instead, let's send a physician out there. You know how much that costs? $300. Let's send a PA out there. That costs $200. So what seems on its surface is something that's really expensive to do is, in fact, more efficient than a lot of the resources we throw at problems that aren't the right resources for that. Now, when you have certain things happen, yes, you need that critical care equipped ambulance. You need a large team of professionals to resuscitate you to do all of the things. We throw those resources there when they're needed. But there's a lot of this that we don't need to. Now, I look at our numbers now. So we stood up what we call the C4, the Collaborative Care Clinical Consult Line. that connects our patients, our 911 callers, to telemedicine. So we can divert, we can say, you know what, we're gonna handle this with telemedicine, cancel the ambulance, we're not gonna send somebody. And instead, we'll see if we can handle this through telemed. Or when the ambulance gets there, they do an evaluation of the patient, they do a physical, they do vitals, and then call through C4 and talk with the doc and say, this is what we've got. Cool, I can pull out my iPhone and I can send a prescription to the local pharmacy, and they don't have to spend a whole lot of time in the emergency department. Well, that seems like a lot of work. That seems like that might take a lot of time. So we looked at that. Now, my system across the system, unit hour utilization for a call is 1 hour and 11 minutes. So on average, out of service from dispatch to clear available is 1 hour, 11 minutes across all comers. We find that when we use the C4, the average is 46 minutes. Now, if we pull out those outliers, we pull out the folks who we did like, okay, yeah, I see what you got. Go ahead and give them this medicine, take them up with IV fluid, do these things. Take those outliers out that take up more time. You know how much time it takes? Unit hour utilization is 37 minutes. So we literally cut the time out of service for that ambulance in half by doing it. Now, again, that's not going to work for all calls, but it's going to work for a lot of them. So our next step is going to be, as we triage those calls via 911, we don't send anybody to begin with. We go directly to C4 and talk directly to telemed, and let's not drop the tones at all for those calls. Now, we found that with the C4 that 20% of those calls that the C4 handles end up getting transported, the ones that they can mitigate. So a very small number end up transported to the hospital, and that's a good thing. That's efficient care. So as we're talking about the right care at the right time, the first time for the patient, it requires us to think of a system. A system not only here in the pre-hospital setting, but also what we do for those patients who are transported. We get blood transfusions in the field where I am. So we have whole blood, we have them on the truck, we have it on the trucks. If you've got trauma, then we hang it and we start running it. And I know that we had to quietly murder a few blood bank folks because they don't always think that, like, what, you're going to give blood to paramedics to handle? Like, yeah, we can do it. We can prove it, and we can prove that it works. Because if I bring you a corpse in that hospital, you can be the best physician on the planet, and you will not be able to do anything with it. But if I can keep you from falling into that hole, if I can do the right things out here, it's like, yes, it does increase the field time, but we prevent the patient from getting into that hole that then in the hospital we can't dig them out of. So here's my challenge to you as the great thinkers in EMS in this region is think bigger in terms of systems. The care that happens in the hospital starts out here in the pre-hospital setting. And we are a part of that in EMS. We're a huge part of that. We're prepping them for the operating room when they're at trauma. We're prepping them for the resuscitation bay by making sure they don't have a terrifying anoxic brain injury because we're handling the problem out here. So let's think bigger. Let's see ourselves as part of that system and not just a way to get somebody to someone else that might be able to help. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for giving me your time today. I'm happy to entertain any questions, which I'm sure you will get entertaining answers if you ask them. But thank you very much for giving me time, especially taking time in front of this woman and mentor right here, who's going to come up and talk after me and talk about great stuff. How I found out about this conference. Yeah. So yeah, Carol and I were at the SOMA conference together in North Carolina, and Dave happens to call her about this conference, and she's like, yeah, he's calling me about the 50th anniversary of Greater Miami Valley EMS Council. I'm like, are you kidding me? What? How did I not know about this? So Dave's got a lot of ground to make up with me. But this helps. This has started. Okay, a little bit. That's good. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having me here today.
Another round of applause. He flew in last night, got in at midnight, and he's leaving here in about an hour. So thank you for coming. All right, for our next speaker, I'm going to ask Dave Gerstner to come forward and introduce.
So first, I want to say that Chris and Chad and Paula and Joanna have worked incredibly hard to put all this together. And I'm not kidding about hundreds of text messages, and I'm not kidding about Chris starting with text messages at 5:30 in the morning saying, we need this for the 50th anniversary. And it's like 50 years, we couldn't have planned for this a little earlier, so we didn't have to start at 5:30. But this is my chance to pay him back for not letting me know about the other thing. The reason I'm introducing the next two speakers by video is that one of them is a man whose name Chris couldn't pronounce, so I get to do it. So as we were putting all this together, we reached out to a number of people. 50th anniversary is kind of a big deal, and Dr. Marriott's the one who first recognized that this is the big year. I also have to say that behind the scenes, there are two people who've done a huge amount of work. Bill, Jacqueline, can you stand for just a moment? My two interns. So we reached out to the federal office of EMS that's located in the Department of Transportation in Washington, D.C. With the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Many of you knew Dr. John Kramer, who recently retired. A man named GMVEMSC, which is why Chris didn't want to pronounce it. GMVEMSC is the new chair, and he has taped a video for us. So, Bill.
Hello, I'm GMVEMSC, Director of the Office of EMS of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. On behalf of NHTSA, I want to offer our congratulations to the Greater Miami Valley EMS Council on the 50th anniversary. We at NHTSA also recently celebrated our 50th anniversary, and I want to acknowledge the critically important functions the Council has carried out over the years to provide essential oversight, support, and equipment to provide effective and equitable EMS to the patients you serve. Congratulations again, 50 years of life-saving care to the people of Greater Miami Valley.
And our next video is a longtime friend of Greater Miami Valley EMS Council and a former president. He could not be here today. He had a prior commitment also to EMS. He's working with the International Association of Fire Chiefs, but many, if not most of the people in this room know Dr. Jim Augustine, who also was kind enough to do a presentation for us. Bill.
Today we are here to celebrate. We are here to celebrate a tremendous history of an outstanding organization whose implications extend way beyond the Greater Miami Valley. The Greater Miami Valley EMS Council was born about 50 years ago, and it was born as the Emergency Medical Services Commission in May of 1972 through an action of the Montgomery County Health Department. Its original mission was to discuss common problems, complaints, and goals of both the rescue squads at the time and the hospitals. As you read through the early mission of the Emergency Medical Services Commission, You will still see names and programs that are familiar to us today. So what a fabulous heritage. And this week, as we celebrate National EMS Week, with a theme of rising to the challenge, we have an organization that for 50 years has risen to the challenge. And amongst hundreds to thousands of members, every day, working to serve our community, and very importantly, to build programs that have become nationwide examples of how to do EMS, how to do patient care, how to do organization so that we preserve the lives and careers of our members, how to function in a way that improves quality, how to function in a way that improves the assurance that quality is delivered and reporting that back to the community. And finally, saving thousands to millions of dollars in funds that are needed to make our community successful in other areas. So in 50 years, the Greater Miami Valley EMS Council has grown from a grant-funded program, which had the support early on of health commissions, of the counties, of the organizational governments, and importantly, the community of providers, the hospitals, and the people who worked in those hospitals. I've had the opportunity to work on both sides of the emergency arena, and loving my career, which began only 40 years ago in the fire service, and working with my providers and brothers and sisters in the field, and then in the emergency department. The emergency department benefits so much from having patients that are well cared for when they arrive in ED, organized, stabilized to the degree possible, and then transition of care to the emergency department. All of our patients and all of our members on both sides know how important that is. Number two, our providers are so well served by a drug box exchange program, by a training, testing, and quality assurance program that assures across our lives in a region, which is what the Greater Miami Valley region is, that we get consistency of care, we get ease of programs for our providers, so that in individual agencies, they don't have to worry about these things. We have a drug box that is so functional and so consistent every time you use one and pick up a new one and allow it to be used by the next providers in the field for the next patient's care. What a beneficial item that is to all of us. And again, extends the lives of our people so that they're not worried about things that across the rest of the nation, many people have to be concerned about. I have taken the examples of the Greater Miami Valley EMS Council through the nation over my last 30 years or so, and the extent by which people learn best practices from this humble organization in the Dayton, Ohio area is truly incredible, and some of you may not believe. Nonetheless, I want you to hear today that the 50 years of history of the Greater Miami Valley EMS Council has not only affected the lives of people who live in and visit our region, but extends across the nation. As a provider in that organization and as a former leader, I am so proud of this organization, and I hope you will feel that same pride. And number three, we have a lot of work to do. As we rise to the challenge this year, as we have risen to the challenge, particularly over the last 2 years, we have another 50 years of service and a whole new arena of services that we need to provide in our community, and that more and more people are relying on us to deliver. So 50 years ahead, we're going to look at programs in community paramedicine. We're going to look at out-of-hospital care that used to be done inside the hospital. We're looking at people who are much more comfortable in that environment, so that they can in some cases, live out their entire life or the rest of their life in their home or other site of care. And that we will have 50 years of providers who will successfully move through their career and allow themselves to be trained in the ways of a great EMS system. And then very frankly, many of them go out to other areas where they can extend a branch of best practices. So thank you all for 50 years of service. Look forward to the next 50 years. And I thank the Greater Miami Valley EMS Council for what they are celebrating this year as we've risen above the challenges in 2 years of pandemic operations. Many more good memories ahead. Thank you all.
We really appreciate him taking time to do the recording. And he had a very busy schedule when he did that. Took the time out to do that for us. So we greatly appreciate that. For our next speaker, I'm going to ask Paula to come forward and do the introduction.
In looking to celebrate this day and making it more special, there was the consideration of someone who received what we do and work so hard to do, and that is to care for someone in the field and to get their feelings as far as how the system works and what we're able to do. That is a collaboration from the first responders to the EMS coordinators, to the physicians, to every player within the system who makes a difference in the outcome of the patients that we serve. Today, I'm honored to introduce to you a very special guest who can attest to the success of the collaborative efforts that this EMS Council across departments and county lines has been able to provide. Together, this is a perfect example of rising to the challenge. I would like to present our next speaker, Mr. Mark Schwederman.
Thanks, Paula. You're going to learn something very quickly. I am not as dynamic as the gentleman that spoke earlier. I am not a fire starter in a room during a meeting. I'm trying to put those fires out. So I think he and I would have a good time in a conference room trying to figure it out. But what I am is the Kettering City Manager, and I have been since 2006, and I've worked for the city of Kettering since 1989. So I have a long career in public service, and I appreciate the opportunity that Paula presented to me. I met Paula on probably the worst day of my life, which turned out to be the best day of my life. Although I didn't actually meet her for probably 60 days later when I came to and was able to meet the people that provided such exceptional service to me. So first, let me congratulate your organization on your 50th anniversary. As part of a member community of this organization, I am certain that you have made a difference, that you have certainly risen to the challenge. You continue to prove the power of collaboration and communications. As an individual, I can also safely assure you that you have made a difference in my life and the lives of my family and friends. As a city administrator, I am tasked with providing exceptional core services to our community. I am also tasked with providing those services that make a difference. Quality of life services that make our community special. The provision of public safety services is certainly the most basic of core services. Emergency medical services is not only a basic core service, but also a quality of life service that impacts individuals' decisions as to where to live, work, and play. We like to say that Kettering is home, and Kettering is certainly home to exceptional emergency medical services. All the guys over there in Kettering uniform made me say that. And as someone who witnessed firsthand the possibilities that seemed impossible because of the emergency medical services provided for me, I am humbled and praise the men and women on call and the Greater Miami Valley EMS Council for keeping municipalities connected. The provision of emergency medical services is not easy. It is expensive. It is time consuming. It is difficult. It is emotionally draining, and it is stressful. But the bottom line is that it is a demanded service and it is vital to our community strength. As city manager, I work with elected officials, hospitals, citizens, staff, and others to make sure that we do not lose focus on what is important. We must provide emergency medical services to our community in an exceptional way. Lives depend on it. Frankly, mine did. At Kettering, we have transformed our fire department over the last 15 years. And I'm certain that the chiefs over on this side of the room will tell you it was an easy ride, nothing to it. But we changed our staffing model, our command structure, our facilities to make sure that we have and are meeting the standards as required by the community, as well as the organizations like yourself. Standards of service matter, and we appreciate what this council has done in the area of protocols, standards, training, mutual aid, and collaboration. While we all have limited resources, and we must allocate those resources judiciously, we must not forget that the provision of core services is a right of our community residents, and police, fire, EMS, and dispatch services are certainly a core service. But today is not about Kettering or one municipality. Today is a celebration of the impact of the EMS Council and what the impact it has had on our region. This council and its members saved my life. I'm grateful for that every minute. I do not speak publicly about my personal life or what we refer to inside the inner sanctum as an incident. However, I knew I had to oblige when Paula reached out to me. It's some tale, and as you can see, the ending is clear. I'm still here because of the impeccably trained heroes who came to my rescue. My story is not extraordinary because of who I am or what I do for a living. It is extraordinary because of who you are. So as I tell it, please marvel with me at the men and women who made everything possible and the strokes of luck that came along the way. On December 1st, 2019, I was doing what I do on Sundays: church and golf, in that order. After enjoying services with my wife, I headed to the golf course with my friend, which was stroke of luck number one, for a quick 9 holes on a chilly but sunny day. He drove that day as he was going to drop me off at a car dealership after the round of golf. That's important. Hole number 1, no big deal. Short little hole, easy drive, get used to the course, have a great day. I've played it often. We both hit terrible tee shots. And when I say terrible, I mean really bad. He hit his second shot first. We were in the same area. Our drives were so bad, we were right next to each other. He hit his second shot first. Not a good one, I might add. I'm told that I even uttered a sarcastic remark about the quality of his shot. He then heard a thud. Stroke of luck number 3. He thought my golf bag had fallen. He turned to find me face down on the ground. My playing partner, by the grace of God's hand, is a trained safety professional. He is well trained at saving lives. His training kicked in. He checked my condition, non-responsive. He called 911, stroke of luck number 4. He began life-saving CPR and he flagged down help, all in a matter of seconds. Had he been 50 yards or 100 yards away from me, which he would have been if we hit decent drives, it would have been too late, and I believe the outcome would have been different. His 911 call went to the city of Riverside. The golf course staff's 911 call from a landline went to Beaver Creek. Stroke of luck number 5. I should stop now and admit that this is not a first-person recount of the events. I have no idea what the hell happened. I frankly do not have any memory of the 30 days prior to the incident and the 3 weeks or so after the incident. But we spent a lot of time in that inner sanctum rehashing what took place. But as you can hear, the network sprung into action. I am forever grateful to the cities of Riverside and Beaver Creek. They absolutely played a role in me being here today, along with many others. This was going to be easier if you weren't sitting in the front row. I suffered a major cardiac event. I was gone. I did not see the light though, so I must have more to do. My friend brought me back. EMS providers brought me back. The hospital staff brought me back. I wasn't catching on. I didn't realize I was supposed to stay. Everyone brought me back. And by the grace of those services and God, I was brought back and stayed back while at Soin Hospital. Riverside, as I am told, was working on me in the ambulance when Beaver Creek offered their Lucas chest compression machine. That is a device I have purchased as a city manager many times at Kettering. No doubt that collaboration offered by Beaver Creek made a difference. They jumped into the Riverside ambulance, as I'm told, and provided that equipment to assist me in the journey to the hospital. Fortunately, the landline used to call 911 went to Beaver Creek as opposed to Riverside. My luck, 2 great organizations partnering to deliver my care. The service was timely, swift, efficient, and most important, effective. I am told by Paula, so if I get this wrong, it's my incorrect interpretation of the correct facts. But I am told that less than 10% folks who survive such an event outside the care of a hospital don't make it. I'm very fortunate that the EMS care provided to me allowed me to take advantage of that 10%. Resources matter, even if it happens to be a helicopter. I can't say I enjoyed the 38-minute ride from Soin Hospital to Ohio State University Medical Center, but their air ambulance transported me to Ohio State after 4 days at Soin. My total hospital stay lasted 46 days. I was on a ventilator for approximately 3 weeks. My lungs were shot, my kidneys were shot, hoses were everywhere, and my heart was frankly the least of my worries. The hospitals did a great job, and God was awesome, no doubt. But without my friend, without Riverside, and without Beaver Creek Emergency Medical Services, the end to this story would have been much different. I mentioned earlier that my friend drove that day. God bless all of you who are trained in public safety. My wife is also a friend of my golfing partner, and I can't imagine how difficult it was for him to drive to my house, little side story, break into my house because my wife doesn't answer the door if she doesn't know who's knocking, and tell her what had happened. I know that she is grateful the way that he handled that situation, a way that he had been trained to do so. Emergency medical service providers make this impact on so many people every day, and the Greater Miami Valley EMS Council is a vital part of the success of EMS in this region. You fortify this necessary network, and you have risen to the challenge. My story is not unique. It is not uncommon. EMS providers respond every day to everyone. Thank you.
Wow. If you would, please give one more round of applause. Thank you for sharing that with us. For our next speaker, I'd like to ask David Gerstner to come forward for the introduction. I'm sorry, Dr. Marriott. I've changed this about 5 times in the last couple of days, so my apologies.
Wow, what a stirring story. I very much appreciate your sharing a very personal and intimate account, and that's had a great impact. Thank you. I have always liked her. I first met Carol probably in the early 2000s when she began having RPAB chairs meetings in Columbus, and many, many occasions since. I also have been sitting in out-of-state conferences with her, so it's I share some of those same experiences. And you could speak. I could speak for the rest of our time about the accomplishments of this lady, and I could speak about Dr. Carol Cunningham and a list of initials and so forth for quite some time. I'll hit the highlights. It was July of 2004 when she became the state EMS medical director, and she did do residency in emergency medicine at the University of Cincinnati, and in 2021 she was actually the distinguished alumnus for that institution, for the College of Medicine. She is an active emergency physician and active medical director. Still does ZD shifts, and probably will for the foreseeable future. I'm betting. The part that I know that she's particularly proud of is she actually did earned an executive certificate in public leadership from the Harvard Kennedy School of Executive Education, and as a prerequisite, she had completed the National Preparedness Leadership Initiative from the Center for Homeland Defense and Security. And she was able to tell her father that she finally made it to Harvard. And so she was very proud of that. Carol, I know Carol as an individual as well. She's very relational and is, and I cannot think of anyone who doesn't know her, doesn't like her. So unlike our previous speaker. I'm taking shots at him, he's not even here anymore. She, even on one of my worst times a few years ago with a little brush with a health issue, she reached out to me, and I very much appreciated that. It was touching and something I won't forget. She's not all work. She's very into music. And when you see her, when she's not interacting with people, she'll almost always have earbuds in listening to her tunes, as she says. And something really cool about her, she sits on the board of trustees of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now top that. Yeah. So it's my great pleasure and honor to introduce my friend, Carol Cunningham.
Oh, wow. I'm gonna tell you, I collect teddy bears. I had to send him a teddy bear. So they could curl up to it and say, I feel better. I'm so glad he's back in the saddle. Thank you so much for having me here. He says there are some people who don't like me, Pittsburgh Steelers, because I'm a Cleveland Browns fan to the core, and I live in the greater Cleveland area. I don't want to talk about so much the history of the MS. You guys know that. 1966, article about accidental death and disability. And knowing that the first 911 call was in 1968. But I'd rather reflect on the fact you guys have been together doing incredible work for 50 years. And I know there's some people here in the room that aren't 50 yet, or some people who were in their Pampers when they were 50 years ago. But I can tell you where I was 50 years ago, 1972. That was the year I fell in love for the first time. Watching Emergency and seeing Johnny Gage. And I was in elementary school and I wanted to flip the bicarb things. And no, I wrote really for every episode, I would sit there and I had a little sheet of paper and I would write a love letter to Randy Mantu. Then I saved all those letters. Thank God I saved them. I put them in my trunk because I thought someday, he's going to meet his second wife. And I'd be there for life. And, which actually says a lot for your counsel. How many marriages have lasted 50 years and are still going strong and having a more impactful relationship than they did at their wedding? Anybody here been married 50 years? Wow, you guys are amazing. Amazing. Congratulations. And I hope everybody else has the same goal. EMS has changed so much since those days. It's evolved. When we talk about some of the advancements that we've actually made advancements prior to when people thought we should. If you recall, when Emergency was on, why is Emergency in the Smithsonian Museum? It's not because of the show, it's because of that show that paramedics existed in the United States. It existed overseas, but then when people started watching it on TV, they're like, why don't we have paramedics? We're not a third world country. So, we can certainly thank that show for making sure that we had paramedics. And at that time, cardiac monitors were there. And how many doctors were saying, there's no way we should be putting defibrillators in paramedics' hands. Thank goodness we do. Good example. Every patient that we resuscitate, good example. Rather than throwing them in the back of a truck and driving to the hospital and, let the doctors do this. It was also that same year, and most people don't remember it, but that's when the first hospital-based medical helicopter, a civilian helicopter, was established out in Denver. And, we brought some of the knowledge that we learned from the Vietnam War, evacuating injured soldiers and bringing that to our nation. During my time in Cincinnati, and it's so good to see Mark here, because you remember, we won a political battle to get the helicopter in the Department of Emergency Medicine instead of the Department of Surgery. And I was one of the original fly girls way before J-Lo was on there, because there weren't any women there. And they certainly didn't know what to do with the rock and roll chick from Cleveland with 3 earrings in each ear on that helicopter. But we made it happen, and we were told to pull out the stops to save a life. And the things we did, surgeons didn't think that we should be doing, but we did it anyway. Anything to save a life. EMS has the same attitude. Anything we can do to save a life. We were saving lives well before 1973, when the EMS Act of 1973 passed as part of public health, which actually finally directed some funding to us to help support our missions. I think another big pinnacle day, and I embrace this day because I never ever thought I'd see it. There's an organization called the American Board of Medical Specialties. They determine what they recognize as a practice of medicine. Emergency medicine is relatively new. They recognized us in, oh, what year was that? It was in the 1970s. But on September 10th, 2010, ABMS recognized EMS as a practice of medicine. That is huge. We've been practicing medicine for decades, but now that really gives us an official stamp of approval. This is not a hobby. This is a life-saving measure of medicine. We stand shoulder to shoulder with any other specialty. Emergency medicine, surgery, internal medicine. And the reason why is those fields can't save their patients without us. Whether a patient's having a stroke, a woman's having a baby, a child is choking, we are an essential link in the practice of medicine. Because of that, we actually have, not every doctor is cut out to be a carpenter. Not every doctor is cut out to be an EMS medical director. We all have a passion for it. But now there actually is a board exam, so we can actually have educated medical directors to go along with educated EMS providers. And I was very honored to be part of what they call the 12 disciples of EMS. Anytime they have a board exam, they have to find people to write the exam, and we wrote the core content. And it was really one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done. Moving ahead, again, we need to start looking ahead at some of the EMS specialty care as we have. Critical care and tactical have been around for a long time. We're good at it. I can say the city of Dayton is really good at it. We need to make sure that that's recognized and that's funded. When we go back to the experience with H1N1 back in 2009, I sit through a lot of state meetings, and as you can imagine, I have to put a smile on my face when people start talking about things, and it's like, oh, honey. I remember then when we wanted to have a mass vaccination campaign, and public health was in the meeting, and we can do it, we can do it. I said, no, we've got skills. We know how to do an intramuscular injection. Oh, that would be dangerous. I don't know if I trust a paramedic to do that. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I said, first of all, you don't have enough people to vaccinate everybody. And number two, I don't know if you ever have gotten out of bed on a Saturday or a Sunday, because a weekday doesn't matter to us. A holiday is just another day. It is. And they didn't believe me till they didn't know I was going to do this. I was calling the different county health departments trying to get somebody on a Saturday and trying to get somebody at 2 a.m. And they weren't there. They're 9 to 5 people, which is fine. Yeah, live your little pampered life. But one of the significant things that we did is we expanded the scope of practice to allow EMS to administer vaccines in a declared emergency. A lot of people didn't think that would fly. It flew like crazy. In fact, I was invited to the Institute of Medicine to give a report on Ohio. And I don't know if you realize it, but during that campaign, it was EMS who administered over 51% of the vaccines given in Ohio. What did that start? It lit a fire, which is great. If we can treat patients outside the hospital or outside in an outside hospital, there's no reason why we can't use our skills outside, which really started mobile integrated healthcare. Oh, I don't know, a visiting nurse. I don't know if a paramedic should be doing what a visiting nurse does. Well, guess what? We can do it, and we do it pretty well. Look at Gary Wingrove up in Wisconsin, who has a rural area, not a lot of doctors out there, but they manage to take care of their community. Again, the community has such a strong voice in all of this. You guys are important to me. It's my job to serve you. But I know that the one thing we have in common is we care about our patients and we care about our communities. And it is our duty to serve them. Moving ahead, now that we're a practice of medicine, that happened in 2010. I don't know how many of you guys, the National Association of State EMS Officials is like on the national side, kind of the conglomerate of state EMS offices. But back in, it was 2010 when we became a practice of medicine. I was the chair of their medical directors council, and my counterpart in Connecticut, Rich Kamen, was just appointed, and I was showing him the ropes. And during a council meeting, I thought, gosh, why don't we have national protocols? No, we can't have that. You know, there was a lot of argument about it, but Rich and I met for dinner, and I'll blame the 3 martinis we had. And I thought, no, it's not a bad idea. So I thought, we'll talk about it again, you know, by the end of dinner, we can do this. But it was kind of a crackhead idea, but I went back to the council, and first time I ever wrote a federal grant. And we wrote the NASEMSO National Model EMS Clinical Guidelines. It was the first set of protocols that was based on evidence that showed that if you followed these measures, you'd have better patient outcome. That was the first edition, released in 2014. We just released the 3rd edition this year, and it took off like wildfire. It's been supportive for rural agencies, as well as large municipal agencies. We've had the military uses it. Federal EMS agencies use it, and at least 6 foreign countries have adopted the guidelines. So we kind of started a fire there, but that was not our intention. Again, it was to serve the patients and make sure the patients were well taken care of. As we move toward, we mentioned 2019, it's a good thing we opened up the scope of practice, because then came COVID-19. I cannot thank all of you enough for being part of the front lines. We all stepped into a mystery box. I've lost colleagues, not only personal friends who were in EMS. Actually, the first EMS provider that passed away in my county was the first COVID death in my county was in one of my EMS providers, where I was a medical director for him for at least 15 years. We've had, unfortunately, I've had friends too, just that I've lost due to COVID-induced stress, depression, suicide. Yet, again, I can't thank everybody enough. Despite the loss of life, I think we saved more lives than anything. Again, to serve our community. One thing the COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated to me, and I hope to you, is that, we're not limited to an ambulance. We knew that before when we started doing mobile integrated healthcare, but we're also not limited to any event that's going to generate a healthcare crisis. As such, people wonder, why do you sit on this committee? Why do you sit on that committee? Well, it's not an EMS. It doesn't have to be EMS. We're a vital part of Homeland Security. They realize it now. Health and Human Services, they realize it now. We really need to have somebody with EMS experience sitting at CMS, because that's one of our biggest challenges. In 1973, when the EMS Public Health Act passed and created some funding, I still see that we are not reimbursed properly or adequately for the things we do every day, let alone in a disaster, yet we stand strong. It's not sustainable. I hope that all of you communicate that to your legislators. And also recruitment is going to be tough too, recruitment and retention. But that's all fixable. But that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about making sure that we have a seat at the table. Randy mentioned the executive, well, it was the Center for Homeland Defense and Security Executive Leadership Program. And I went through it in 2010. And the second day I was there, the director of the school taps me on the shoulder. I was like, oh no, what am I busted for coming to my office? Okay. And he said, you know, I got to tell you, we struggled with your application. Why would an emergency physician or EMS physician need to be in this class? Because it's mainly FBI, Secret Service, few emergency managers. But he goes, you've contributed so much in the 24 hours worth of class. Are there any more of you out there? I was like, sure. So it's nice to see that that's being recognized. But again, I think that number one, we are vital. We're vital to the community. We're vital to ourselves. Make sure you keep all of you as in a family. There's things that we see that people aren't supposed to see, that you can't go home and talk to your family about, but we have each other. I have your back. I hope you have mine, but we have each other, regardless of whether we disagree. I would encourage us all, even though we've advanced EMS and expanded it. You know, my dad was probably my biggest mentor. He was a military guy, but a big teddy bear. The one thing he taught me is he never taught me how to think or say I can't. Therefore, I really didn't have any boundaries except my mother, who always said that, I don't know, she was very conservative. I frustrated her. She always said I was the only person who could find a way to have a great time in hell, but which is probably true. But anyway, my dad always instilled in me, have the curiosity to explore and come up with innovative ideas. Once you have those ideas, have the courage to walk where no man or woman has ever walked before. It's much more interesting to carve your own path than to follow a path that's well trodden. Investor's Business Daily said, if you follow the herd, it's the path to mediocrity. So let's keep on cutting our own paths. And when you do so, make sure you have the confidence, make sure you have the capabilities, and make sure that you have the cojones. It's Spanish, it starts with a C. My dad spoke Spanish. I didn't realize I didn't have physical cojones, but I have them in my heart. But the important thing is when you wrap all those C's together, remember that this is a business of humanity. It's a business of kindness. So nothing means, and all those things don't mean anything unless you complete them with compassion. So regardless of our differences, let's have compassion. So thank you so much for inviting me. I'm going to be shifting gears tomorrow, going to my rock and roll scene because we have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame board retreat, and I'm friends with Bonnie Raitt, so I got to fly and have lunch with her before it starts. So I'll be there just in the nick of time. Thank you.
I had no idea that she was from Cleveland. So when the suggestion was made for her to come down and speak, it's like, sure, that's great. And they said, she's coming from Cleveland. Holy cow. So we've had some people that have traveled some great distances to come today. Dr. Pickett from Texas, Dr. Cunningham from Cleveland, and Brian Kuntz, who's one of the prior presidents of council, came from Alabama. So I think we've had some well-traveled people to be part of this event today. So thank you all for coming and being participants. One thing that I would like to ask, would all the past presidents of the Greater Miami Valley EMS Council please stand? I want to congratulate the Greater Miami Valley EMS Council on its 50th anniversary. The goal of the council is to see that every person in the Greater Miami Valley area who needs emergency medical pre-hospital services receives quality care and delivered by well-trained and dedicated healthcare professionals. This organization has drawn national acclaim as a leader in providing that care. You are all part of that great organization, making this possible for 50 years. I can't wait to see what the future has in store. As technology gets better, our understanding of the human body increases, and the young minds of the future will be giving us tools that we haven't even thought of yet. I believe we have one of the best pre-hospital systems in the nation, and I'm proud to be a part of that. We wouldn't have it today without you. So I thank each of you as made the council what it is today and what it will be tomorrow. I would like to ask the following people to please stand. I would like Paula Balcom, Joanna Pittenger, President-elect Chad Hollinger, Treasurer Leslie Gardone, Office Manager and Executive Assistant Sandy Lerter, and past President Dave Gerstner. And I would also like to add MMRS interns Bill Rose and Jacqueline Tyler and Roger Diltz to the list. These folks have put in an awful lot of time to be able to put this together. And while this has gone by in just what seems like an hour and a half or so, it's taken hours upon hours. Two of the interns that are present today have spent countless hours on designing, hoping with the challenge coin, we would bring ideas to them and doing that, doing AV needs. They probably have as many hours in just alone as what the rest of us have combined in trying to produce the things you've seen, whether it's been the billboards, the challenge coins, whatever else. They put things together, would bring ideas, and they would constantly tweak those. And I can't thank you guys enough for the work that you've done. So I'd like to give this group a big round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. I would also like to recognize GDAHA President Sarah Hockenbrock for attending today. You know, the Greater Miami Valley EMS Council, when I got involved with it and started coming to the meetings, I always thought it was really about EMS. And truthfully, to our hospital partners and without GDAHA, the EMS Council could not do what it is that we do. And that's probably one of the biggest unknowns to a lot of our providers out there. So to the hospitals, to the GDAHA, thank you very much, because the theme of this today has been about collaboration. And without all of you, we couldn't do what we do. So thank you very much. This concludes our formal ceremony. Please take time to connect with others and to share and learn about the council and its history from some of the early leaders in our organization. Thank you all for coming. It's really appreciated. Everyone, if you're interested in Con Ed, there's going to be 2 QR codes that have to be scanned for that. So please don't leave yet. And there's also going to be cake for you to have. So we'll get the QR codes up here in a second for you to scan them. Yeah, it's cool. All right. Everybody, if I can have your attention for one more minute. Excuse me, if I can have your attention one more minute. If you're would, the QR codes are up here. Please scan those with your devices so you can get Con Ed for today's meeting.